so excited to lean in today with none other than Valerie Adams. She is just this incredible force to be reckoned with, this absolutely beautiful soul from the inside out. And she is going to have so much wisdom to share with us today. She's just such the embodiment of everything that she teaches. And I'm so excited to have her on today. Deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for you to be here today, Valerie. It is going to be so much fun to just dig in. And I really hope that all the messages that she has for you today just deeply activates within you whatever it is that you desire, your soul is calling forward to receive from today's session. So Valerie, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to dive in today.
Ooh, me too. Thank you for the intro.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Of course. Yeah. So let's just dig right in. So I know so much of what you do is really encompassed around creating freedom and liberation in your life and the lives of your clients and just the people that are in your space, even friends, family. Like you're just such an ignition, that igniting of that freedom. And so what would you consider, or how would you describe what freedom and liberation is for you? For someone who's like, that feels whimsical and big. Like, what is that when you think about the deepest embodiment of just like freedom and liberation? What has that meant for you in your life?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I love what you said about how that can feel really whimsical to someone else because everyone has their own version of freedom. So what it really means to me is that I, along with partnering with God, with the universe, with the angels, have the power to create the reality that I want. And I believe this for every single person. And so that freedom is like nothing is set, nothing is finite, nothing is already decided for you. Like everything is really malleable and you can create it at every single moment. And that freedom has always been within us. What I found is that the conditioning, right? It's like go to school, get your degree, get your job, all these things. Like we feel like, no, that's the path I'm supposed to take. That's what I'm supposed to do. And the freedom really comes when you challenge that and you go, well, what if there's something else I want to do? What if I want life to go another way for me? And then really realizing that you have the power to create that if that's your truth. So that's how I would say it
Oh my
feels.
God. So empowering. I freaking love that. Like when you think about, I think about my own journey as you're saying that, this idea of like, everything felt very laid out for me. Like it was like you go to high school, then you go to college, and then from there you get a 9 to 5. And for me, it was like, oh, then that's where nirvana happens, right? Like that's where the freedom happens. Like I'm gonna have this beautiful 9 to 5 and I'm gonna have all this income coming in. And then all of that was happening. And I'm like, but why don't I feel free? Like it's like I had everything on paper, but inside I felt not free. Inside, I felt like there was something stirring that was like, this isn't for you. There's something more for you. And so I love that you're speaking into that because I think that that's so relatable. I had that exact same experience where I'm like, this just is not it. Like I wanted it to be it. I followed the path that was laid out for me and it didn't feel like my right path. And so was there a moment in time where you were on your own journey and you were like, yeah, this isn't it either? Like was there a moment in time where you started to feel like something shifting or stirring within you where you were like, I am not living in freedom and I want to shift that?
So, yeah. So there's two things that stick out to me. My first feeling of that was when I graduated college and lived in San Francisco right after that. And I had gotten my first corporate job. And I remember just this feeling of waking up every day and like having to like get ready and go to work and this feeling of like, but what if I don't want to go? Or like, wait, is it always going to be like this Monday through Friday for the rest of my life? Like it was so hard for me to wrap my head around. And it was this sinking feeling in my body. And I remember being like, no, but like you have your degree and yeah, this is what you've worked for. And like, it's going to be so worth it. And then it's like, literally that led to me drinking every single weekend, me wanting to forget about the work week. Like that was the cycle I was in from the moment I started my corporate career in 2012. And then the next point was really when I started having moments around the time when I was 27 of like, wait, is this all there is to life? Like this feeling of every time I would take a vacation, being basically sad the whole vacation because I'd be like, only 3 days left, only 2 days left. And then me being like, oh, is this kind of like it? It's like you work and then you have 2 weeks of PTO, but you don't want to use it all at once. And like, like finding, like, it just really felt like, wait, is there more to this? But I didn't really have the knowledge and the foresight at the time, or even examples of people who were living a different way, who weren't like Oprah or what felt untouchable to me, for me to look at and be like, oh, wait, actually, there could be something more here. So it was this internal battle, honestly, of feeling like, well, I have all the things, I get to be grateful, and almost like talking myself out of that pit in my stomach of, I can't imagine the next 40 years looking like this. Like, I see no end to this. I see no, because it's so interesting, kind of what we were talking about with like college. And it's very much, we're always programmed to be working toward the next thing. So it's like kindergarten, then you're going to go to elementary school, then you go to middle school, then you go to high school, and then college. And then the big thing is like, oh, getting your degree after that. And then when you get into your corporate career, it's like the only thing really there is a promotion, maybe. And a lot of people don't have a clearly defined path of what that promotion will be or bring. And so that was weird to me, where I was like, what am I really working toward? Like, bust my ass so I could get a $2,000 raise, like, which had happened. Like, so it was just one of those things where it was this ignorable, if that's even a word, feeling in my stomach. And then once I started to really question and be like, if there's something else I'm supposed to be doing, like, God, please show me, universe, please show me. That's when all these signs started showing up for me. And when I went on my personal development journey and was learning from people who had created something outside of the norm, that's when I started to see this is available for me. So those are like the big moments that really stick out to me.
Yeah. You're speaking my language. I had such a similar experience where it was like, wait, I want to retire and I'm 23. This is a problem. Like, I'm not a trust fund baby. What's happening? I need some form of income. But then I just kind of, like, similar to what you were saying, the pit was there in my stomach, but I just continued to grind it out until at some point I was like, I'm so unhappy. I need some sort of an outlet, some sort of a creative outlet. And honestly, you were a huge part of my journey too, of just seeing you in this freedom and for you just creating something. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. And so you were such a huge part of my own journey of starting to actually think outside of the box, like to actually be like, what if there is something more? Because that's kind of a scary thing to think about when you're like, no, but I'm not supposed to think outside the box.
Yes.
And then you dip your toe out and you're like, I don't want to be inside this box anymore. I need to get outside the box, sometimes. And sometimes you're like, I want to go back inside the box. It's like all a journey, but, you're so speaking my language around that. And I think so many people would resonate with that, where it's like, you get into this space and you're like, what am I working towards? A $2,000 raise. And then you're like, and that put me in a different tax bracket. And now I'm actually making less money. Like, what's happening, So yeah. So you're like, what am I working towards? And that was a big one for me too. I was like, I need something that feels like I'm making an impact and I'm not just proofreading something that I don't even know if anyone will ever read or even care about, type of thing.
Totally. And the ironic thing, and I'm so happy that I was that person on your journey where you were like, oh, what is she like? Oh, she's like doing something, like, what is this? And that similarly happened to me. The first woman I worked with and hired and joined her mastermind to launch my business, she was in my first corporate job with me. So I'm like, okay, we're like, we come from the same cloth, and I had seen her online at that time when I had that pit in my stomach. I would see her talking about law of attraction on social media. I would see her live streaming from a park in the middle of the day. And I didn't understand that she had her own business. Like, it wasn't really clear to me, but I was putting two and two together. And I was like, wait, this woman is not like at a desk job like I am. And like, we started out the same place. Like, what is she doing? And it became this like really exciting thing where I was like, what has she figured out that I haven't? And being able to like learn from those people and just reach out to them. And I remember the message I sent her was like a mile long, and I was so nervous. And I was just like, hey, I'm like thinking of starting a business, and it seems like you have one too. And like, can we talk? Like, it was crazy. And then it ended up that she was able to be my coach and help me get my business started. But I really feel like it takes that one person who you just see them living so differently. And it's just like, what is that? And so there's always a choice too. You can be really triggered by it and be like, what the hell is she doing? Like, that's weird. Or when you're coming from desire, you can lean in and go, okay, there's something here for me. Let me open myself up to it and see what she's up to. And that was the best decision I ever made, because that was the start of everything for me.
So true. So true. It's like so interesting. The things that trigger us are the things that we're meant to heal within ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to point the finger out and be like, that doesn't make sense. I don't like it,
Yeah,
And
totally.
instead of being like, what's inside of me that's unhealed that I could maybe look at. So, but we've learned that through this journey too, of like just creating freedom of realizing it's all up to me. All of my triggers are mine. Like that's freedom in and of itself, of being like, what would happen if I took ownership of these and actually decided to heal them, release them, so that I can actually step further outside of this box or wherever I desire to be,
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're speaking into several things that I think are so important to start to share too, for someone who might be on the cusp of like, do I want to maybe start my own business or lean into a space that is outside of the norm? You were talking about how you started to receive these synchronistic things, signs from the universe, which I think is such an important part of the process too, as you're waking up to your spirit within you. That's like, girl, you came here for a purpose and it's way bigger than this. Right? What were those things, those signs that you started to receive from the universe that you were like, that's interesting, that started to really start to get you to, let's say now that coach that you were working with at the time, that seemed to be a sign too, where you're like, people in my world are making stuff happen. That's a sign in and of itself. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, the biggest thing is like asking for signs, because the universe isn't going to override our free will or try to give us something that we don't want or are not ready for. And so with that pit in my stomach feeling, it was more so like, is there something I'm supposed to be doing? And I had no idea what that was, because we want to know the how, right? When we want to make something happen, we're like, well, how's it going to happen? And I had no clue. And so I didn't have that burning desire because I was so attached. I knew I always wanted to work with people and help people. And I thought that the only way that could look would to be a like high school mental health counselor. And I was like, saw that there was a lot of schooling involved with that. And I was like, okay, that's not going to work. And I don't know how much money they make. What does this look like? So basically it was me asking the universe, if there's something else I'm supposed to do, like, please give me signs, please make this apparent, please make this evident. And so what really started showing up for me were books, podcasts, and mentors were the biggest things. It was like, I would, be listening to different podcasts and I would hear the host of the podcast on like, or like two different hosts on a podcast I was listening to that week mention one book as being like the catalyst for them. And then I would go get that book and holy crap, there was something that really shifted everything for me in there. I remember randomly getting this nudge of like, I want to learn more about manifestation, because I was always into law of attraction. Like even when I was just in my like lifestyle, honestly, of getting to Friday, drinking, just trying to forget about the week. I had watched The Secret, and that was something that felt really good to me, but I didn't take the journey further. Like I think I had maybe the book as well as the Netflix documentary, but I was always super on board with law of attraction, just not consciously practicing it. And I remember just getting the ping to Google in Spotify, literally type in manifestation to see what podcasts there were. And that's how I found Manifestation Babe, Catherine Zankina. And she was someone who was a really big catalyst on my journey too. So it was almost like all these things came to me. Nothing was forced upon me. No one came to me and said, oh, you got to listen to this. You got to do this. It was complete me and the universe, co-creating, bringing me these things. And it's like everything had a message for me. I was getting all this confirmation so fast because I was open to it and I asked for it. So those were the biggest things. And then that led me to working with my first coach.
That's so huge. It's so huge. And I love too that you were like, I'm just following my curiosity. Like it's bringing me joy. I'm excited. I'm curious. And that is such a big distinction too, of like, start to follow what gets you curious. You don't have to have it all figured out at all. We're still figuring out our journey as we're going, and we will until the day that we leave these bodies. Right. And so it's this idea of just knowing you do not have to have it all figured out. But I will say working with a coach is like, who has what you desire is so important. Someone that you trust and someone that has what you desire learn from them, because they had some every single coach that is where they are now, let's say that's what you want to do, has learned a lot of big lessons along the way. And by tapping into their energy, you don't have to learn that lesson. You can quite literally be like, can you give me the answer here so I don't have to go through that same big, heavy lesson that I have to overcome? I'd rather tap into your energy and say, like, how did you overcome it? And that's the idea of mentorship in general, where it's like, when we can tap into someone else's energy and start to understand, like, what's your secret to success? Or like, what did you do when this thing happened? Because this doesn't feel good. Getting those quick things on how to actually move through it is such a massive way to quantum leap.
Yeah.
To have that, and just know that your mentor has a mentor, and that's like that pole of like connection, that energetic connection is so powerful, because everyone is learning from someone else. Usually if they're in this space, it's so, so, so powerful.
That's so true. I love that outlook too. And it's like, the really cool thing is like, as a coach, me sharing something that maybe I just recently learned, or a breakthrough I had, within the last few months that I'm learning on now, now it's like year 5 of my journey. It's like, I can turn around and give that to my clients now, who maybe they're on year 1 or 2 of their journey, and they can take that lesson and apply it now, and it can save them the struggle that I went through. And that's not just a me thing. This is like, I believe this is what every coach wants, is like wanting their clients to get to where they want to go faster than them. And that's like the humility of it too, because there's literally zero competition. Any competition stems from ego anyway, but it's like, there's a feeling that runs through my body. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Christina. Like when you have a breakthrough or you learn something, for you do so much healing with your clients. Like there's something that really helps you heal or release a block. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait to do this with my clients. Like, I can't wait this is going to help them so much. And that is why mentorship, it really collapses time, because here you are as the mentee, right? As the client, getting these lessons, getting these tools that maybe your mentor learned on year 10, you're getting them right here, right now. So it's like, you can shoot up, in your journey way faster by having access to these tools. And, it's just one of those things also with mentorship. I feel like the ROI, it comes even after the container's over. Like every single mentor I've ever worked with, there are teachings and things that are now a part of me that I took from our time together, whether it was in 2019 for 3 months, a year, that I apply to my business and live by. And that's why it's so cool as a coach who, has been mentored by other people. We get to take these and like collect and then, bring them to our clients. Like it really is so, so magical. So I love that what you shared about how it's like, someone's mentored by someone who's mentored. And it's like, here we are passing all this wisdom down, cracking all these codes, and just helping each other get more of what we want out of life. And that's why we're here.
Yes. And this is like, we're meant to learn in community. Like we're meant to learn in tribe. We're not meant to do it all by ourselves. Like, even though our ego has us think like we need to do it all on our own, like, be an independent person. It's like, you can still be independent AF. Like that is a massive part of who I am, as it like what I identify as, is like, I need my independence, my space. It feels so good. But also I found myself lone wolfing a lot. And I was like, oh, I'll just Google it for 4 hours. It's like, what? Like when I was like, before I stepped into the coaching space, instead of asking questions, I would just Google and be like, I don't want to look like an idiot. And then it's like, how much time did I waste when I could have been like, hey, how do you do this? And then be like, Control Alt Delete. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, wow. Like just the quantum leaps that can happen when you fully lean in. It's just in any mentorship relationship. It's like, if you know of someone who's doing a thing that you want to do, talk to them, open that line of communication. Like I used to do career coaching, and I would literally, one of the ways you can get your foot in the door in career coaching is to be like, hey, interview someone who's doing the job that you want to do right now. Ask them questions about it. What do you love? What do you hate? What do you, and then all of a sudden you have your foot in the door too. And so it's like, just being in community and asking great questions, getting curious about stuff will open your eyes to, it's probably a lot easier than you think it might be. Cause I bet it feels really overwhelming when you blue skies, instead of just being like, can you like actually dumb this down a little bit and have this like, what are my next 2 steps instead of what are my next 9,000? that's the beautiful thing about leaning into those spaces too, is like, hey, I'm currently at this step. What do I do with this one? You know, it's just like, it's changed everything.
Yes. Yeah. That's so beautifully said. I love
Yeah. Well,
that.
one of the things I want to dive into too is, what are some of the things that you've had to overcome on this journey to creating your freedom, that you feel has really, like, just some of those difficulties that you had to overcome? Because it isn't all blue skies and rainbows and unicorns, right? Like there's like moments in time where we're like, that sucked. That didn't feel good. And so let's start there. And then we'll talk about how you got through them too, if you want to even share that as part of the journey story as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the biggest things, and I'm so happy that I had no idea what the challenges would be as I was starting my journey. I feel like the biggest thing for me was overcoming fears of rejection and letting go of people needing to understand. Because one of my biggest patterns was a people pleasing pattern, like all the way up to when I was 29, which is when I went full time in my business. And just really this part of me that really wanted to be liked by everyone. Like, who goes around saying, oh, I want to be disliked, I want to trigger someone, I want to piss someone off. Like, we don't go around like that. And so for me, it was really about understanding, okay, I'm doing something really different. And for me to expect or try to get every single person who I've ever been friends with, who's ever known me, to understand and be on board with this is impossible. And so I had to really sit with, like, what would happen if people didn't like it? What would happen if people judged me and thought I was weird? What would happen if, like some of these friendships didn't make sense anymore, didn't feel aligned on both ends anymore? Like, would I be able to survive that? And that was really hard, and really sitting with that and going, well, what am I committed to? God wouldn't wake up this fire in me and have me be so like clear that I want to help people in this big way, like lay out this path for me, line up everything financially for me to take the leap and do this full time, like for it to just be like, oh, never mind, it's not going to work out for you. It's like, there's a reason why this tap came and why I answered the call and why all the divine circumstances were laid out for that. So that was a really big thing, is for me to lean into more my mission and impact versus being liked and accepted. And so that came with a lot of pain, a lot of like letting go, a lot of people letting go of me as well, like very mutually, just letting go of friendships, which is really, really hard. I think the other thing too is your business holds up a mirror to all your insecurities. So me being so scared to do sales calls in the beginning, like me being so scared to ask people to work with me, like, oh my God, what will that mean if at the end of this call, if they don't want to have me as their coach, like what is that going to bring up within me? How is that going to make me feel? And really, I had been playing very small with wanting to avoid rejection, because when we're so scared of rejection, we're going to do everything to try to avoid it. But the things that I was avoiding were the things I needed to do to get to that next level and work with clients. So it's like, I had to make bolder content. I had to make content that was for a specific person that most people would be like, wait, this doesn't apply to me. I had to, ask, like invite people onto calls. I had to pitch. I had to sell. All these things that I was really scared to do. It got to this moment where I was like, if I don't do these things, I won't have a business. Like, I won't be able to make the impact. So that was the biggest thing, because I feel like when you first start your business, you see and you hear so many amazing messages online from other leaders about, location freedom, do what you want, like attract your clients, like all that. And there's also the stuff that, isn't the most fun, like doing sales calls, selling, putting a lot of effort out and sometimes not getting anything back, like the output way being outbalanced with what you're actually receiving, like so much there. And I feel like too, also giving myself permission to evolve. Like I went through a lot when I pivoted from dating coaching to business coaching. So dating and mindset coaching for single women, that was my first business, I would guess. And I pivoted last year into business coaching. And that was really hard because all my patterns came up again, actually, because I had built such solid community and helped so many women in the area of love and dating. And for me to not be doing that anymore, it was really wobbly, where it was like, I was scared to post content that was only for entrepreneurs. I received messages from people being like, oh, so you're only like talking about business stuff now? Like, I really love your dating stuff. That's so sad to hear. Like, so I had to really be like, okay, here, this is the other wave of it, of like me now stepping into what I know I'm meant to do now and what I'm being pulled to do, and being okay with people not wanting to come on the journey, because just because someone chooses to follow you or buy from you or be your friend, it's not a forever thing. And so me learning to really like honor myself, honor those people too, and just really learn that like nothing's permanent and I'm not meant to be that for everyone all the time. So those are probably the biggest things that I went through. It's really, I don't know where this originated from, but the saying that building your own business is the like biggest personal development program you could ever do. It really is. It's so confronting in every way. All your stuff will come up. But it's so beautiful. Like if you're actually playing the game, like if you could totally avoid, and maybe it's something you're doing on the side, or it's, not making money yet, that's when you can avoid it. But when you actually start making money in your business and you have clients and you want to grow, that's when all your stuff comes up to really be healed.
What you're speaking into too is like this law of polarity, where it's like when we're in, let's say the 9 to 5, and it doesn't feel totally right, we're kind of in this either neutral space or like an angry space or a sad space, right? This low vibrational state, or just right in the middle, versus like when we actually really dig in and be like, what would just light my soul on fire right now? And am I willing to lean in and to feel those high states of like bliss and joy and, oh my God, I can't believe this is my life. We also do have to experience the moments of like, what have I not been looking at? And what do I get to heal? Because I'm now experiencing this through the law of polarity, what I get to heal to raise myself to the next floor, like raise my frequency enough to meet the thing that I desire, because I would already have the thing I desired if I was at the same frequency of it. Right. Totally. Unless I hadn't called it in at all. And then I just decided to call it in, and I am at that frequency of it. But so often we'll experience those blocks, and it's simply because, oh, your soul came here to follow your soul's purpose and to evolve. And so in order to do that, we have to evolve. The only way to evolve is to know where your triggers are. And the only way to know where your triggers are is to understand, or to notice when you feel sad, when you feel angry, and to start to unpack those and understand, what are these things that are coming through and why are they coming through? Where are they rooted in? And so was that part of your journey too, when it comes to like overcoming each of those things, was really getting to the root of why is this coming through for me, and how it kind of got you to the other side? Because I think what you're speaking into is like a very, it's a part of the entrepreneurial journey, is that some people just won't get it and some people will, and that's just part of it. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful mirror, exactly as you were saying. I love the way that you said that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's really about like learning, like mostly everything stems from childhood. So it's like the reason you think it's coming up is usually not the root of it. Or what I also found too is because, the healing never ends. There's always another layer. So there's been different times on my journey where I've actually been needing to go deeper on something, or there's another memory, that actually is the root, or, can give more context to why this is popping up, will appear. But my ego is like, we've already done that. We've already healed that. And so it's like, the healing is never done. There's always more, and not in a way of like, oh, you have so much work to do, but that it's always going to keep showing up. So, so much of it really was because a really powerful question to ask yourself is like, when is the first time I remember feeling rejection, feeling embarrassed? And so much of it is like, oh my God, that time in 6th grade where they made fun of me because of my teeth, or, because of this, or that time, the boy didn't want to kiss me. And like all these things stem, like we think it has nothing to do with present day, but it's like, we truly are, we have that 8-year-old Christina in us, that 7-year-old Valerie, who still needs our love and attention, and needs to have stories rewritten and retold to her, because the interpretations we made up when we were 7 years old are not going to serve us as CEOs running our business. And so I think that's been the biggest thing, is really knowing there's always more, and also letting my ego know, like, hey, on the other side of this, like, it's safe for us to heal this and look at this more, because on the other side is something beautiful to get us to the next level. Like what we healed to get to this level is great. And for the next level, this is where we get to go.
Yes. And there's just so much liberation when you find that, like when you start to peel back the layers, right? It sometimes doesn't feel great when you're in it. Like when you pull back the layer and you're like, ooh, that feels bad actually, when you're in it. But honestly, once you've healed it, there's so much liberation, because that's the thing. It's in the subconscious and it has energetic weight to it. We're just not aware that it's there. And so it's coming through for us to actually heal it. It's ready to heal. So now I start to see it as like, it's coming through for me because I'm ready. Okay, let's do this. Because what's on the other side? Massive liberation that I haven't actually experienced yet, because it's been living here, even if I didn't notice it.
Yes.
Yeah. So huge. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. So are there any, or do you have like a favorite healing modality that you use that seems to really work with, let's say, your childhood self, or really starting to heal those big, when you unpeel the onion and then that subconscious belief comes out? What's like a healing modality that you use that would be something that someone could actually utilize, let's say like today, like someone could just lean in and be like, this is something you could try on for size, like right after this episode?
Yeah. So immediately what comes through is something that my healer Valeria taught me, that I did in a session, that just, it's something now I do on my own that's really helpful. Is, there's been times where I've shared with her like painful things that have happened in the past. And it's like, we're still running that story whenever we're looking at the like event. And so she would have me like go into the event again. And it's almost like we rewrite the event. So there was one event we did where it was a memory of like me running out of money in college and needing to call my dad to ask him to like give me more money. And I knew he was going to be upset, and I knew he was going to like tell me I was irresponsible. And it was like, this bracing for the impact. And I could like remember that feeling in my body. And, and just for context too, like my dad, like paid for my college, like paid for rent, like paid for my books. Like I was very lucky in that. And, like there's a lot of opportunities to spend money in college, drinking, food, all that. And so it was always just like, I realized I had blocks around money because there was this feeling of like, maybe it was jealousy of like a lot of my friends, they had their parents' credit cards, or like they had really big like monthly allowances where they weren't stressed about money. Like they always got to, when they were hungover, like go eat out. And for me, it was like, and it was like, I worked in college, like worked at the calling center, like all these, like basically resentment feelings. And that's obviously getting in the way of money. And so it was easy for me at the time to be like, oh, it's, like when I need money, I'm going to get yelled at or something. And so the healing was us going back into that event. And it wasn't this serious like hypnosis thing. It was just kind of like closing my eyes, visualizing. And she actually had me go back into an event where it's like, I'm calling my dad to say I ran out of money. Like, can you give me more money? And instead, he pauses for a second on the phone and he goes, this is only one time in your life where you get to be in college. Like, I want you to have more than enough. I know you're working really hard. I know you're studying really hard. Of course, I'll transfer $200 more. And that was so healing. It felt almost like that previous memory melted away because I was able to use, that energy, because our subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real or imagined. And it also can't tell the difference between past or future. So the subconscious mind processes everything as if it's happening in real time. So I was able to, be that 21-year-old and like needing money and not making that much because I was working a minimum wage job, and just having this experience of being financially supported and like loved and given money from a place of love. That was so healing for me. And so that is actually a tool that I use now. If something's coming up where it's like a painful memory of maybe like a hurtful experience with a friend or an ex or something, like going back into that event and just using my imagination to have it be different. Like imagine them meeting you with grace and love, or maybe you saying something different, or you getting to apologize for something. Like, them apologizing to you. So that is what I would recommend everyone do. Like it could bring up a lot of emotions, but it's really powerful. You can rewrite your story and it's going to impact the way that you are creating in your reality now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite exercises because we copy and paste the past into the present moment all the time. We have it mean something about who we are, what we're capable of. And when we can go back, and it sounds so simple or so silly, but when we go back into that moment and really meet ourselves there and share with ourselves what we needed to hear in the moment, it changes everything. Exactly as you said, it just starts to dissolve the thing that's holding us back in the present moment. And it's so freeing when we receive the thing that we needed most in the moment that our parents just didn't know better at the time, at what we needed, and it's like to be able to go in and reparent yourself is so incredibly empowering, or go in and just share with yourself what you wish you had received from a friend, a parent, a neighbor, whatever it was, or from yourself, going in and rewriting that story, the language you had with yourself, let's say 10 years ago, yesterday, it doesn't matter. Just going in and rewriting it.
Yes. And just like dissolving the emotional charge behind it. Because if you are still, and I'm not saying this from like a shamey place or like it's wrong, but if there's something that happened, I don't know, 10 years ago, 13 years ago, 20 years ago, and when you think about it, there's this emotional charge in your body and you're like, no, I don't want to think about it. Or like, there's a lot coming up for you. That means that there's healing available. And there are things in my life I can think about that I still have healing to like do around. I'm not standing on a mountaintop of like, I'm perfectly healed. All you people are still trying to figure it out. It's really like, that is a sign. And it's like, can you choose to lean into that? Can you see that as an opportunity? Like, whoa, there's something here. And this emotional charge is showing me that I'm not completely free yet. So like, healing creates freedom. Healing is not sexy. People don't intrinsically go like, I want to heal. Like, I want to do that. But it's like, I want to get to the other side. And what I can promise is that on the other side of healing, that's where the money is. That's where the love is. That's where the friendships are. That's where, your dream home is. Like, seriously, people heal.
Yes. Yes. I mean, even as we're talking about it, I'm like, there's like 3 memories that just popped in that I'm like, oh yeah, I feel emotionally charged about that. Let's dive in after this and start to heal it, and they might seem really simple, but if it comes through and you think, oh, I can't believe I did that, or I'm embarrassed, or that was silly, or whatever it is, there's an emotion there that's actually bigger than you're letting yourself feel. Because if you feel anything except for neutrality about the emotion or the memory, there's something there for you to heal.
Yes.
So it can feel like
oh my God,
so little, but there's something there.
Yeah. Especially like stuff we've done in the past. Like there's, so many things that I'm like, oh my God, not even cringe, but like deep embarrassment or shame or like, God, like I was so this or that. And so it's one of those things, because I remember before I had the tools to heal, like before I went on my spiritual awakening journey, my healing journey, it was like these memories would pop up and I'd be like, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, and just try to forget. And, when we try to forget, we are, filling with different stuff. So you can try to forget through alcohol, through hooking up with people, through shopping, through eating, like exercise. There's so many ways that we can try to distract. And it's like, something that I learned in my NLP training, and I know I've shared this with you, Christina, something my trainer said that really stuck out to me is he basically said, like, it's not about erasing the memory. Like you actually keep the memory, but you lose the energy behind it. And it's like it's not about forgetting. It's about you being able to transmute what's there and be able to look at it from this place of, like you said, neutrality, like, yeah, that happened. And like, this is who I am today, and it not take you out. And yeah, it takes work, and it takes deciding you want to feel good and who you can be without, this emotional charge. And it's like, you can revisit something and within like 90 seconds, you can feel completely different about it, but you have to be willing to look at it. And that's the scary part, to lean into it. And that's why working with a healer, working with an intuitive healer I cannot recommend it enough, to have someone hold you through that and help you through that. And the beautiful part is that not a codependent experience where it's like, oh, this healer is healing for me.
Mhm.
No, you are the one healing yourself. And to have someone guide you there, it's like, just watch your life blow up in the best way when you work with
Yes.
someone who's specialized in that.
100%. Yeah. I remember even like, the biggest example of that is when I went to the healer that we go to, this incredible healer. I went to her and I remember being like, okay, what is happening? Like I felt like I showed up to the session, she showed up to the session. And the idea of working with the healer is like you show up as the healer is basically a conduit for the healing that your soul desires. So you might not consciously know what you're wanting to heal, or you might not consciously be like, I'm incredible at healing. You are the most incredible healer that you will ever meet in your entire life. You just need a conduit for the healing to come through to you if you're not sure how to do it yet yourself. And so even just showing up to that session, I remember it was like our first session and having like a full on soul retrieval. And she didn't even know that it was happening. And I didn't even know it was a thing when it was happening. All I remember was my energy just felt like it was coming inward. And I was like, what is going on? And then I ended up journaling. And what I journaled was like, oh, you just got, parts of your soul back. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And then the next day, her and I were talking and she's like, I just channeled this message. You got parts of your soul back. And it's like, just so cool when two people show up to this space and we're like, let's see what comes through. Universe, move through us, allow this to just like allow each of us to just be a vessel for deeply healing whatever the soul desires. So it's just so fun because sometimes it's like, it's so true. It's so empowering to remember you are your own best healer. And if you don't know how to do it yet, lean into someone who can support you through it.
Yeah. And even if you do know how to do it too, it's like, it's so funny because every time, before the session with my healer, your healer, like I will write down because I'm like, I don't just want to like, that's my personality is like, I don't want to just show up passively to my investment. So like with my mentor for business, with my healer, I don't want to just show up and be like, let's see what happens. So, and it might even be a control thing too. So I'll write down like, oh, here are the things I want to work on. Like, here's what, and it's just so funny because in that moment, my ego is writing these things down and be like, oh, I want, like, have her help me get through this. And then it's like, what actually comes up that is related to that. It's like, I'm like, wait, you're telling me my fears around money have to do with my romantic relationship? Like what? And it's like, I never could have planned or predicted it. And that's the power of having this.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point also, even when we do know how to heal, having a mentor or a healer point out your blind spots is like invaluable. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh shit. Like I had no idea that was living there at all until someone is able to like channel the message for you or just share what they're seeing. And like, does this resonate with you? And then you're like, oh my God, it does. So having that mirror, they're really just a mirror for you to see what's within you. But like, you need the mirror sometimes too, where it's like, we can't look in the mirror when it's just us. Sometimes it's like, we need someone to hold it up and be like, okay, take a deeper look. Cause I don't think you're seeing what I'm seeing,
Yes. Yeah, totally. It's just so incredible what can come up. And it's like, usually not what you expect. And it's one of those things, like, it's never like, oh my God, you're a coach, but you have a coach, you coach on this, but you're working with a coach that coaches on the same thing. And it's literally like the same thing as like doctors have doctors, psychologists have psychologists. It's like so powerful in that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So what would you say, similar to that healing modality or just like a process someone could move themselves through, what is an incredible manifestation tool that you use that someone could just try it on for size right after this episode as well, that you feel like is super effective in your life, that someone could just be like, I just want to try this out and see how it goes?
Yeah. So I feel like the biggest thing for me has been really working with angels and having like really taking advantage of the support that's readily available from the spiritual realm at all times. So there's an amazing book. It's called Hiring the Heavens by Jean Slatter. And it's basically about how all of us have multiple guides, multiple angels, just literally sitting there waiting to support us. And you would think like, well, why aren't they supporting me all the time? Why aren't they intervening? Well, we have to ask for support because we have free will. And it's like our angels don't want to interfere unless they are invited. And of course, that doesn't mean like, I'm about to get in a car accident. I didn't ask an angel to help me. So now I'm going to get in the accident. That's when our guardian angels will intervene. But really talking to the angels we have available to support us has been huge. So I look at it as like, and in the book, and I highly recommend everyone read it, it's like, hiring support and basically like asking for support with everything that's actually not under your control. So something that I do is I will hire angels. Like if I'm running late for my yoga class, like, when I'm like buckling my seatbelt to go drive there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire an angel to help me get there. Like help me get there as fast and easy as possible. And it's like, I will say that out loud. Literally, I'm like by myself. And then it's like, I'll hit every green light, or I'll know it's a popular class and I'll be like, oh my God, I hope I can get my spot by the mirror. And I'll be like hiring an angel to help me get the most aligned, best spot in class ever. And so you can do this for small things. You can do this for big things. Like Ryan and I were going to be moving out of our house soon, and it was unexpected. And we're also really excited about it now because we know like, okay, the universe has somewhere else that we're meant to go that we wouldn't have chosen on our own. So I'm literally hiring an angel to help with the logistics, like the perfect, help make this the easiest move ever. And just before hopping onto this interview, there was just a flyer on the ground in front of our house that said, it's like for a cleaning service that specializes in move out cleaning, because we're going to hire people to deep clean the house before we do the walkthrough with our landlords. And that was exactly what I was like, I got to find, because I know cleaners who just kind of like clean, but what about like making the house spick and span for the move out? And that was something I'm like, okay, thank you, angels. And when you get those things, like thanking the angels, and you can do this for bigger things too, like money, clients. I do it when I create content, like angels, please like get this post to who it needs to get to. Like, please allow the people who are meant to be inside of this space, reading this post, hiring me to do that. And so that's the biggest advice I would give, is that you don't need to like get into alignment or feel a certain way. Like you don't have to be like, these angels are available to help you at any time. So that's the manifestation tool I want to pass on that you can use literally right away.
Oh my God. I love this one so much because you can use it right away. And exactly as you were saying, what I loved is the distinction between angels and guardian angels that you just dropped as like this truth bomb, where you're like, there's angels that you can hire, and there's guardian angels that will drop in and support you when you're like, need it at the very most, And so I think that's a really, really cool distinction that you just shared, because there's these angels that are just waiting, and it's like our spirit guides are just waiting. They're like, I would love to help you, but it's the law of free will. They cannot jump in there until we're like, I have a job for you. And then they're allowed to intervene and say like, okay, let's do this thing. Let's go.
Right.
Like they want to help. They want to. They're just waiting for us to just tag them in and say, go.
Yeah. And we think like those low moments where you think you're alone and like all that, I guarantee you're not asking for support. Like you're not having a conversation and actually inviting in support from our angels. And it's the same thing. Like if you've ever been, it's like you start to notice like, oh, I'm seeing repeating angel numbers, or like you're getting all these signs and it feels like you get like 12 signs in a day. That is literally you inviting the angels in, because you are acknowledging the sign. Like every time I see it, I'm like, fuck yeah, like thank you, angels. And that's you inviting more of it in. So saying thank you, like thank you, universe, thank you, angels, for what you do receive. That is also saying more, please. Whenever we say thank you, we're also saying more, please, energetically. And it's crazy what is on the other side of asking for that support. We're never alone. There's so much supporting us, but if it's not showing up, I can almost guarantee that you're not asking for it.
So true. Yeah. Or we're just kind of like wishing, but like part of us is like, that can't happen. And it's like, well, I can't work off that wishy-washy energy, girl. Do you want it or do you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow. That's huge. That's incredible. I love it. Well, tell us where you're hanging out. Tell us a little bit more about like, if someone wants to connect with you, what that looks like. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. Well, I'm on Instagram a lot. So my handle is @themindfulbabe. But you could type in Valerie Adams. That will probably show up too. I usually you can see me posting on my stories about my dog, my walks that I go on, yoga class, all that. Would love to connect over there. And I also have a free Facebook community called the Inner Boss Community, where I have and host free trainings on business building and just really helping you get to your next level in your income, in your coaching. So those are the two main places I hang out. And I believe the notes are there. Will be there in the show notes.
Yep. I'll be tagging all of these spaces so you guys don't have to go looking for them. So you can look down in the show notes. Val, thank you so much for joining us today, for dropping this wisdom. I mean, so much juice is just coming through, and it's like, I love that it's just immediately actionable, that they can start to lean into these spaces right away as they're wanting to manifest what they want, as they're wanting to heal what's in the way of what they're manifesting. So thank you so much for coming in, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your beauty from the inside out. Just so grateful to have you in this space.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, this won't be the last time. We will have Val back on here for more. I guarantee that.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time.